So welcome back to All About TV, where I will be highlighting the new and interesting movies and shows I've discovered and sharing them with you. In this video, we're going to dive into all the new stuff to see this October on HBOmax. Now first, let's briefly start with some older movies that are new and coming to HBOmax this month. First, there is All the President's Men from 1976. This movie tells a story of the break-ins at the Watergate Motel during the run-up to the 1972 elections. So Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward covers what seems to be a minor break-in at the Democratic Party national headquarters. He is surprised to find top lawyers already on the defense case and the discovery of names and addresses of Republican fund organizers, so it further rouses his suspicions. So the editor of the Post is prepared to run with the story and assigns Woodward along with Carl Bernstein to do it, to work on it. They start digging deeper and deeper and find the trail leading higher and higher into the Republican Party and eventually all the way to the presidency with Nixon and the White House itself. This classic movie stars Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford at their best, so check that out, All the President's Men. Also new to HBO is Blackhawk Down from 2001. This is an action war drama based on the best-selling book detailing a near disastrous mission in Somalia in October 3rd, 1993. So on this date, nearly 100 U.S. Army Rangers were dropped by helicopter deep into the capital city of Mogadishu to capture two top lieutenants of Somalia warlords. This led to a large and drawn-out firefight between the Army Rangers, U.S. Special Forces, and hundreds of Somali gunmen, which resulted in the destruction of a couple of Blackhawk helicopters, which is what the name comes from. The film focuses on the heroic efforts of various Rangers to get to the downed Blackhawks. It centers on one guy who is leading the Ranger unit called Chalk 4 to the first Blackhawk crash site, and also to Chief Warrant Officer Durant, who was captured after being the only survivor of the second Blackhawk crash, as well as many others who were involved. One of the most realistic war battle films made. It stars Josh Hartnett, Ewan McGregor, and Tom Sizemore, just to name a few, and that is Blackhawk Down. Okay, now let's move on to something totally on the other side of the spectrum, and that's Blazing Saddles from 1974. This is a classic satirical Mel Brooks take on westerns. A crafty railroad worker, Bart, who is played by Cleavon Little, and that part actually, Richard Pryor was offered that part, but he turned it down, but he did help write the movie. He has a writing credit on this film. And anyway, this worker, played by Cleavon Little, becomes the first black sheriff of Rock Ridge, a frontier town about to be destroyed by the railroad going right through the middle of it. So initially, the people of Rock Ridge harbor a racial bias toward their new leader, kind of a sign of the times, so to speak. However, they warm up to him after realizing that he and his perpetually drunk gunfighter friend, played by Gene Wilder, who is fantastic, like everyone in this movie, are their only defense against the railroad. And they're thugs that they've sent into town to cause trouble. So check this one out. It's an older film. The pacing may seem a little slow compared to nowadays, but it's a classic. It's funny. It's really good, and that's Blazing Saddles. Next we have, from 1985, Desperately Seeking Susan. Takes place in 1985, very sign of the times in the 80s. It's a New Jersey housewife played by Rosanna Arquette of Rosanna fame. If you've ever heard that song by Toto, that they were singing about her, she's the one that inspired that song. Anyway, she spices up her boring life by reading personal ads, especially a series of them, being placed by a mysterious denizen of New York City named Susan, and that is played by Madonna. And this is probably the first Madonna film also. She plays a supporting role in this film, but this is her first venture into film. So now, when one of Susan's, Madonna's, ads proposes a rendezvous with her suitor at a Battery Park, the other girl, played by Rosanna Arquette, secretly kind of tags along to find out what's going on. She's just kind of a voyeur. She wants to get more involved, and she's kind of obsessed with these postings. When her voyeuristic venture ends in memory loss and she has this new jacket, she begins to gather a lot of unwanted attention from unsavory characters. She almost takes on the characteristics and wants to be the Madonna character, Susan. So, it is a lighthearted, fun movie, and like I said before, certainly a peek into the sign of the times in the mid-'80s. So check that out, Desperately Seeking Susan. Next, we drop back into the 70s from 1976 with Marathon Man. So here we have a history student becomes caught up in the middle of this dangerous international plot involving Nazis, stolen jewels, and government agents. Dustin Hoffman, who is just also in All the President's Men, plays a likable graduate student and a marathon runner from what the title comes from. Now, he is unwillingly trapped in a killing game of international intrigue involving his brother, played by Roy Scheider. And like I mentioned, it involves a Nazi fugitive played by the late, great Laurence Olivier. So this is a great film, full of tension, full of twists and turns. You're going to like it. It's called Marathon Man on HBO, new on HBO this month. I know I keep saying it, but these films that I'm highlighting that are new to HBO, but not necessarily new, are definitely classics, at least the ones that I've highlighted. At least I feel that way. So the final one is from 1989 called Say Anything. This is John Cusack at his best. This is the one that launched his career, I feel, and it's playing Lloyd Dobler, which in a way John Cusack has always been playing almost all his movies, and nobody cares because he does it so damn well. It's just so believable, and you just can't help love him for it. Also, this is the movie that has the infamous scene of Lloyd holding up that boombox. Yeah, I had one back in the day, while playing Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. This movie was mostly filmed in the Seattle area, but except I think that boombox scene was probably filmed somewhere in North Hollywood, I think. This is an early Cameron Crowe film. He directs and writes this film perfectly as he excels at capturing the feelings and moments of first falling in love that you can so easily identify with. And he makes everything just feel so right, natural. He just does an excellent job. John Cusack and Oni Skye give such wonderful performances. They're so believable. There's not a second that you're thinking of them as actors. Everything they feel and do seems so real. So we have this high school senior Lloyd Dobler who wants nothing more to do than to go out with the beautiful and seemingly unreachable, intelligent Diane Court. So I'm sure many of us have experienced and can relate to the mini cliques that can be around high school and those seemingly lines you're not supposed to cross. But this is a story that takes the first scary steps into first love and kind of crossing those lines. Despite all these barriers, Lloyd attempts to win the heart of this girl, despite the objections of her dad, who's played by John Mahoney. Now you may recognize John Mahoney from Frasier, which also took place in Seattle. He portrays the overprotective father very well, with all this understated struggle, and then when he realizes his own mistakes, it's just very superbly done. A fantastic, iconic film. Go watch it, or we watch it now. Seriously, go watch it now. It's on, it's available on HBO as we speak. As you're listening to this, put me on pause, I'll wait. Oh, great, you're back. You can thank me later. Now, let's go over the brand new items coming out this October on HBOmax. The new offerings this month are highlighted by two enormous Warner Brothers film releases. The first is the Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark, which is already out right now. The movie is getting a theatrical release as well. It follows a young Anthony Soprano growing up in one of the most tumultuous eras in Newark's history, becoming a man just as rival gangsters begin to rise up and challenge the all-powerful DiMeo crime family's hold over the increasingly race-torn city. Caught up in the changing times is the uncle he idolizes, Dicky Montesanto, who struggles to manage both his professional and personal responsibilities, and whose influence over his nephew will help make the impressionable teenager into the all-powerful mob boss we'll later come to know as Tony Soprano. So the second big drop is the sprawling sci-fi epic Dune, out on October 22nd, which we will get to shortly. Yes, I know it's such a tease, but you owe me for saying anything, so I'm cashing in. I am going to get back to Dune. We're just going to try to do these in order by how they come out this month. So we'll get back to it, I promise you. But first, let's go to October 7th when we get 15 Minutes of Shame, a Max original series. This original documentary film examines social behaviors by embedding themselves with individuals from across the U.S. who have been publicly shamed or cyber harassed in the past, exploring the bullies, the bystanders, the media, psychologists, politicians, and experts in between and surrounding the occurrence. 15 Minutes of Shame is about one of the most pressing and unaddressed issues of modern life. Brought to you by the people who know it best, because this documentary is executive produced by Monica Lewinsky and Max Joseph. So that's 15 Minutes of Shame. So the next day on the 8th we get Voyagers. So, with the future of the human race at stake, a group of young men and women breed for intelligence and obedience. Nothing ever goes wrong when they do that. And they embark on an expedition to colonize a distant planet. But when they uncover disturbing secrets about the mission, they defy their training and begin to explore the most primitive natures. As life on the ship descends into chaos, they're consumed by fear, lust, and the insatiable hunger for power. Sounds like a little bit of a Lord of the Flies thing here, but it's written and directed by Neil Berger, who did Limitless, The Illusionist. The film stars Ty Sheridan, Lily Rose Depp, Fiona Whitehead, Shantae Adams, Isaac Hampstead Wright, Viveka Talro, and Colin Farrell, and a whole bunch more. Lots of peeps in this one. That's Voyagers, out on the 8th. Okay, one more before Dune. That's Succession, Season 3 premiere on the 17th. Succession tracks the lives of the Roy family as they contemplate their future once their aging father begins to step back from the media and entertainment conglomerate they control. So it's kind of in family fighting for power and prestige, probably. So to check that out, Succession Season 3 on the 17th. And now Dune. So on the 22nd, we have Dune. It's streaming for a limited time. So what we have is feuding royals, a deadly sleeping planet, and a gifted young man who holds the destiny of everyone in his hands. So born to Duke Leto Atreides, played by Oscar Isaac, and Lady Jessica, Rebecca Ferguson, Paul, played by Timothy Chalamet, that's the main character, inherits stewardship of Arrakis, also known as Dune. This is a planet. It's a dangerous desert wasteland that's home to vigilante natives, who Zendaya plays the main one and his love interest called Chani. And it's the home to Melang, which is also called spice. Now, spice is the most precious resource in the entire universe. It is known to extend life, and it grants its users with superhuman intellect and allows them to accomplish faster than light speed. Not the people, but how they can use it with their minds and stuff. Anyway, they set out on a mining expedition to save what's left from malevolent forces that would do anything to get it. So all this is wrapped in political intrigue, and they face mind-bending realities, raging rebellions, and giant sandworms. The future becomes clear. Only those who can conquer fear will survive. It also stars, other than the people I've mentioned, it also stars Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Jane Chen, Sharon Duncan Brewster, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is known for his work on Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049 looked great, but was incredibly boring. But he also worked on Arrival, which I loved. And yes, it involved time travel, so yeah, I was sucked in. And Sicario, which also was great. Now, Dune is adapted from the screenplay based on Frank Herbert's novel of the same name. The story is epic, and it has a huge fan base. I'm hoping they do a better job than they did with the 80s film version. And I did read all the books, and I know the story well. My fingers are crossed on this one. I'm really looking forward to it on the 22nd. I went and saw the original one back in the theaters back in the 80s. Horrible first date. Just terrible. The movie was bad. Did not help the date at all. Never saw the girl again. Anyway, enough of October 22nd. It has to be better. Dune. But it's only going to be streaming in the US for 31 days from that date. So if you want to watch on HBOmax, you need to do it in the first 31 days. Okay, coming out on the 28th, In the Heights. Now, this is the film version of the Broadway musical In the Heights. Centers on a variety of characters living in the neighborhood of Washington Heights on the northern tip of Manhattan. At the center of the show is Usnavi, a bodega owner who looks after the aging Cuban lady next door. Of course, he is also pining for the gorgeous girl working in the neighboring beauty salon and dreams of winning the lottery, like all of us, and escaping to the shores of his native Dominican Republic. Meanwhile, a childhood friend has returned to the neighborhood from his first year at college with surprising news for her parents, who have spent their life savings on building a better life for their daughter. Ultimately, Usnavi and the residents of the closer neighborhood get a dose of what it's meant to be home, in the Heights. Okay, so on the 28th we have Love Life. It's the Max original series and its season 2 premiere. It's a fresh take on a romantic comedy anthology series about the journey from first love to lasting love. So season 1 starred Anne Kendrick with her character and the relationship that she had gone through Now, season 2 of this series focuses on Marcus Watkins, who's an Emmy nominee, and executive producer William Jackson Harper, as he comes out of a years-long relationship with the woman he thought was going to be the person, or the one. The rug is pulled out from under him, and he is plunged back into the search for the romantic fulfillment that he thought he had already had. So, that's season 2 premiere of Love Life. Okay, that is it for this week. Feel free to ask questions, and don't forget to subscribe. Next week, we are going to get into Halloween and some stuff that is going to get your trick-or-treat on.